Well, hello again from the Granite State. My name is Gary, and this is the Restoring Main Street podcast. So glad you took a few minutes to join me. It has been a while. Unfortunately, that phrase comes out of my mouth more often than not if you remember some past podcasts, but it's been 3 months. My last recording was, February 24th was the last post. So you're talking, like I said, 3 months. That's a little bit of time. Maybe some of you missed me. Maybe some of you, maybe it was an enjoyable break. But you do have to kind of select to listen to this or pull it up. So I'm thinking most people tune in because they want to or because it's been shared. But anyway, 3 months worth of time. Not get too much in my own minutiae as far as that goes, but I had a little home project to work on, and at my age, you peck away at those things. You don't go full bore like you used to when you're in your 20s and 30s and maybe even 40s. So that took up a little bit of time. Like I said, I'm not going to dive into this too much, but I did have a family member pass, so that took up some time as well. And I'm sure most of you have had to deal with those things if you've been on this earth for any amount of time. So that was part of it as well. And just life tends to get in the way, unfortunately. Like I said, this is something, a fledgling thing, Restoring Main Street, even though it was started, close to 3 years ago, as a writing project, and now is morphed into this. But, it takes some time. You need to, kind of work at a few of these things. And, unfortunately, like I said, if this is not what you do for a living, if it's not, what you do every single day, like I said, life can get in the way, and I know what that's like, trying to get things accomplished, and you have goals and aspirations, but sometimes life gets in the way. And when you're talking about 90 days, in the grand scheme of things, it's not necessarily a huge amount of time, but when you gauge it by, and this is the way I'm going to gauge it right now, by what's transpired in those 90 days, I think it's fairly significant if you gauge it by what has changed and what has occurred. So I'm going to try to run through a few things just to kind of illustrate, that statement that 90 days doesn't seem like much, but let me share with you a few things that have occurred over that 90 days. So we'll think about starting the program. And there we go. So, what has occurred in those 90 days? Well, back in February, the end of February, the Ukrainian War, Soviet-Ukrainian War, was starting to kick into gear, and if you listen to some of the reports and what you felt, or what the media felt, at least, that Vladimir Putin thought, or what you heard coming out of Russia, was that this was going to be, fairly quick, or at least that was the opinion. It was going to be, this wasn't going to be a long drawn out thing. A lot of speculation was that this was going to be, over in 2 or 3 weeks, because you just believed that Soviet Union was and their forces were just that much farther or more superior than the Ukraine. And the Ukrainian people had other ideas, obviously. But let me just illustrate that a little bit. I just want to show you something. I'm going to try to run down through some articles on some of these things that I'm going to talk about, and I will share the links in the description when I post this podcast, so you can certainly go back and look at some of this stuff. Unfortunately, like I said, I don't know how when this translates or when this posts, I don't know how large it gets when you necessarily view it. So I don't know if you can read everything that I share with you, but let's start here when we talk about Ukraine and kind of where that is gone. So this was back in March of this year, and this is from Stars and Stripes, as you can see, and it talks about no fighter planes transfers to Ukraine through Allied airspace. Now, you remember this conversation. This was a discussion because the Ukrainian Air Force, or their contingency had taken on quite a few blows. They had lost planes, of course. Not having anywhere the size of the military, obviously, that Russia has, and there was a discussion that started that Poland had some older MiG-29 fighters that maybe we could get these to the Ukraine somehow, because Ukrainian forces would be familiar with these particular planes, rather than some other type of aircraft. At least they could get in them and potentially fly them. But then that discussion went away. That never materialized. But initially, let me just read a little bit of this. NATO airspace will not be used to transfer fighter planes to the Ukrainian military. Alliance leaders said Tuesday after a meeting in Poland where top U.S. commanders were on hand for high-level security talks. Ukraine has requested additional military hardware from the West to help stave off Russia's full-scale invasion, which was on its sixth day when NATO's talks occurred. So you remember this. It went from, it basically went from a discussion of that, and then because of the way these planes would potentially get transferred, at a U.S. air base someplace where Ukrainian flyers could somehow get to those and get in those planes. But this administration and the president didn't want to do that. Felt it would show some type of escalation on our part. That wouldn't be a good thing. We'd be getting ourselves into the middle of what could potentially be World War III. So that's where it started, back in February, and that, like I said, got the kibosh. So how do we make it to passing a funding bill for $41 billion in aid to the Ukraine for military and other means, things to help out that country? But how does that not get construed by Russia and any one of its secret under the table allies that this is an escalation as far as U.S. involvement? So what changed? And like I said, I'm talking about 30 whole days. A quarter of the year, granted, but still, that's 30 days, excuse me, not 30 days, 90 days. I'm talking about 90 days, talking about 3 months. So in 3 months' time, we went from, no, we can't let you bring Polish aircraft onto an American base so that Ukrainian flyers can get to them and use them, to $41 billion in aid. So I guess, a lot of things can happen in 90 days, huh? And, what else occurred over that period of time? Well, let's see. Have you noticed, and I'm being beyond sarcastic, prices at the pump. What has happened to our gas? Do you remember, not that long ago, and this goes past just 90 days ago, but do you remember, not really that long ago in the grand scheme of things, do you remember $2 a gallon gas? Do you remember that? What are you paying right now? And how much has it gone up, just in these last 90 days? Back in January, as far as the East Coast, let me drive this home a little bit further. In that, I want to share something else with you. I'm jumping off of, your gas for just a split second, and you've seen that creep up, so what's happened over the last 90 days with that. But now we're talking about diesel. We're talking about diesel prices skyrocketing. Excuse me. And supply dwindling because of what's happening around the world. Well, partially what's happening around the world. Supposedly this is all, Putin's economy. Putin's, Putin this, Putin that. It's all about Putin. We're not doing anything to help ourselves. So you don't think closing down a pipeline and not allowing those drilling auctions to go through for the drilling rights up in Alaska just recently, that basically they said there was no interest by companies. Come to find out from legislators, congressional legislators from Alaska, that's not true. You would think that maybe there was a little bit of influence from the banking industry too. I've talked about ESG scores and the Great Reset and what's happening with that, and as far as the financial picture of them squeezing the fossil fuel industry. If you remember back mid to beginning of February when I talked about the what was going on with that, with the Great Reset, starting to make its way and flex its muscle through the financial institutions and starting to threaten the fossil fuel industry that they weren't going to fund them. Think maybe some of that is had an effect. When financing to do some of these things that would possibly get us out of this situation, that would get us back to not build back better. How about just back to where we were? How about that? Something, maybe closer back to $2 a gallon gas, something like that. But just as a point of reference, talking about diesel, this was back in January. In January, on the East Coast, diesel was a whole $3.60, which, that's a move up. But then in February, it jumped to $4.16. And as of May 16th, and I haven't looked, since then, but it has jumped up to $5.94. That was as of the 16th of May. So that's kind of what's going on here, and what you're seeing here. I forgive me for not being a little more attentive to what I'm showing you here. This is transportation topics, and this is the 2022 Department of Energy regional diesel fuel prices. So, and like I said, I will give you these links in the description so you can go look at this stuff for yourself. So, you can look at anything here. It has U.S. average. You can look at East Coast, New England, Central Atlantic, Lower Atlantic, mid, all the way to the West Coast of California. And honestly, you can go in here in this drop down here. You can pick a year and you can go back. Go back to 2020. Just for a second. Look at that. U.S. average for diesel back in 2020 was $2.63 a gallon. That was the U.S. average. So, like I said, I just shared with you that, the jumps over the last 3 months, 360, 416, and as of May 16th, $5.94. So, excuse me. I guess 90 days is a little bit more of a time capsule, or things can really deteriorate in 90 days more than you would think. And what else has gone on since then? Let me see. How about food prices? You go to the grocery store. Anybody that's was a little more maybe intuitive and perhaps saved some of your grocery bill slips, from back months ago, and then watch the slow progression of everything going up and up and up and up. Oh, and not to be forgotten, the whole diesel thing. As diesel prices creep up, and then we start to have a supply issue with diesel. What runs on diesel? Well, tractor trailers, trains, ocean-going vessels. Sounds like all the stuff that you would need to move, goods from one side of the country to the other, from one side of the world to the other. And who do you think's going to feel that pinch more than you? They're not going to, that price increase is going to get passed on to you. And you're going to start to see shortages in your stores of all kinds of things. The most concerning, obviously, is food. But when you can get the food, when you can get some of these items that you need or want or necessities, the extra cost for transportation, who do you think is going to absorb that? They're not going to pass that on to you? As a company that's trying to survive, what choice do they have? They have bottom lines. They're trying to stay in business. So whose fault is that? So we shouldn't be drilling. We shouldn't be, trying to get back to where we were, back in 2020 or earlier. That nothing from this administration has anything to do with, what's happening out there for the cost of goods and services, for the cost of your gasoline, what's going on. And of course, the whole talk of Build Back Better, when you listen to the administration start to talk about, wanting to get off of fossil fuels. And it was that Biden the other day said that we're going through an amazing transition it's hopefully going to move us away from fossil fuels to electric. Do you understand? They're talking about rolling blackouts, here in different parts of the country for this summer. That means that the grid can't handle what it's dealing with now. What happens when, most of the country, if they get their way come 2030, is driving around electric cars, more of a demand on the grid? Yeah. Do we run some fossil fuel through a few energy producing electricity, producing plants across this country because they stopped building nuclear power plants because they're so scary and dangerous. Not true. The safest form of energy for all of us, if you're talking about the electrical grid and not wanting to harm the environment and, the fewest amounts of incidents. But, of course, we're not doing anything with that. We bailed out of that. So we're not doing, We're not shooting ourselves in the foot here with any of this. It's just amazing to me. Absolutely amazing to me. And let me share with you if I can take a look and make sure I've got the right. Yes, I do. Okay, let me pull this up. And I'll let you take a look at this. Okay, and this is U.S. inflation calculator. All right. And again, like I said, I'll share these links with you in the description. Food inflation in the United States. Okay, and this is just a chart. 12 months of CPI ending April 2022. Majority categories, increases or decreases shown in percentages. So inflation, all items, 8.3. Food, 9.4. Energy, 30.3. Core inflation, all items less food and energy, 6.2. Slide down the page here just a little bit and take a look at major food categories. 12 months, April 2021 to April 2022. Food up 9.4%. Food at home, 10.8. Cereals and bakery products, 10.3. Meat, poultry, fish, eggs, 14.3. Dairy and related products, 9.1. Fruit and vegetables, 7.8. Non-alcoholic beverages, that type of thing, 9.8. Other food at home, 11%. Food away from home, 7.2. And like I said, this is from the inflation calculator I pulled up, and I'll share this with you. And why do I feel like those numbers are below what's actually happening? And like I said, this is, think back to just January and February. How much has it changed in just 90 days? I'm gone for 90 days from off of here sharing anything with you, and voila. Are you upset yet? Are you paying attention yet? Has it hit home for you yet? I'll bet it has. I'm not trying to be rude or sarcastic. I'm just amazed. What are you willing to continue to accept? That's what I'm curious about. My title for this particular post, this particular podcast, when I post it, is going to be, it's what have I missed? I wish I could say I missed all of this, and I'm sure most of you would probably be saying the same thing right now. Wish you could have missed all of this. So, what else should you be paying attention to? It's hard to look at other things, honestly, when the everyday things are the things that are really causing you angst. And then add on to that what just happened down in Texas. "21 lives lost." And where does the media go? Where does this administration go immediately? To politicize all of this and dredge up the gun debate again. If you're really concerned about the American people, if you're really concerned about those kids, when the call goes out and there's an incident like this, who's showing up to that? Who showed up down in Texas? Well, you had a border guard and you had the police, and they had what with them? What ended up stopping this individual finally? It was good guys with guns. Actually, it was the Border Patrol officer, if I remember correctly. He's the one that finally stopped this. Took a bullet as well, but he's the one that stopped this. So we revert back to having the gun debate while lives are taken, instead of talking about. It sounds like good guys with guns would have prevented this. Why aren't we talking about securing our schools? Why isn't it okay to, you'll spend millions of dollars on things that do absolutely nothing, but the idea of schools hiring ex-military people with that have credentials to actually walk around plain clothed, or train up volunteers within the teachers at any particular school that want to be allowed, that the administration wants to allow to carry, to prevent this. We secure our banks, we secure people in office. Just think about the people in office that are condemning this right now and calling it, a gun issue again. Don't they have their own security? What do they carry? I guarantee you it's not water pistols. Sorry to get off on a tangent like that, but I just, these are the things that occur that, there's so much going on right now. And I'm just trying to touch on some of the things that have happened in the last, 90 days since the last time I've done a podcast. And I could go on, if we had all night, I could go on all night with all kinds of things that we could discuss. And like I said, that's just 90 days. How is this not overwhelming for everybody out there? All of you. It's very much overwhelming. And you almost feel like some of it, can be noise to try to distract you from some of the things you should be paying attention to. And then other parts of it are so important, it's just, and nothing's really being done to fix it. They're making the claims that, it's not us. It's them. It's Putin. It's somebody else. It's not us. Last time I checked, you put a president and administration in office, and that's their job, to correct these things. And for them, any of them, to say that they can't, there's nothing that they could do to fix any of these things. What a joke. That's a farce. That's a lie. So what else are we missing right now? Like I said, I'm covering a lot of territory tonight, but you know what? I'm feeling a little squirrely here, and feel like I need to cover some territory. So maybe we should take a little jaunt to what's happening over in Davos, Switzerland right now. Did you see this? My buddy Klaus. Have you heard any of the sound bites that have come out of Davos right now? As far as some of the things that they're talking about, you're talking about the elites around the world. Go ahead and look this up and see the list of companies that have signed on to this. If this is no longer. They can't hide this as some kind of conspiracy theory. The whole Build Back Better, the World Economic Forum. What's being done to coalesce, companies to work together in public-private partnerships with governments so that they can circumvent your legislative bodies in order to get things done, to force, companies and all of us to bend to their will as far as what they want us to do. Just something else for you to worry about. Isn't that just, it just gets better, doesn't it? So, this is Klaus. Let me read just a little bit here. Klaus Schwab, founder and chairman of the World Economic Forum addresses more than 2,500 businesses, political and media elites at the WEF annual summit in Davos, Switzerland on Monday. And this is a quote from Klaus. The future is just not happening. The future is built by us, by a powerful community such as you here in this room, Klaus told his audience. We have the means to improve the state of the world, he added. He has improved the power to push you in the direction. That's what they believe, that they want to push you in. Global leaders are assembling for the summit this week to discuss the theme, history at a turning point, because they feel like, because of the COVID pandemic, they've got the perfect framework. They've softened you up mentally over the last 2 years, forcing you to, comply to edicts, not laws, edicts, decrees, and got you running in fear, or at least they feel enough of you running in fear that now is the time to spring this on the world and transition from a capitalist free market society into something closer to their heart's desire. So, more of the quote. The meeting is the starting point for a new era of global responsibility and cooperation, the World Economic Forum's website wrote. The moment demands it. Schwab assured the summit attendees that they had the power to take control of the future and change the world. Well, what is part of that change? I challenge you because, I've done enough of, these podcasts on the Great Reset and the World Economic Forum. If you haven't looked into this, I honestly don't know what you're waiting for. Because if you don't think this is going to affect you, people that tune into this this podcast and see the title go, restoring Main Street. Well, how does this restore Main Street? Well, anything that I see that looks like it can attack your well-being, your means to function, to exist, to have a normal life. If small business is trying to survive right now, and you have so many things against you. Like I said, this podcast is called Restoring Main Street. I just want us to be able to save Main Street right now with all that's going on, with all that we've got in front of us, that all we're going to struggle through. If you don't think the next 6 months are going to be some of the most difficult that you have ever experienced in your life, as far as outside forces, things that you may feel like you don't have control over, intervening in your life and causing chaos. If you can't look around you and be honest about what's going on and say, wow, what am I supposed to do? You're not being honest with yourself. And I'm not telling you this to frighten you. I'm hoping a majority of you are already awake. The reason I do this, the reason I talk about some of these things, the reason I bring these things up, honestly, because maybe you're not thinking of them. Maybe some of the information that I share, you may not get. Maybe some of the places where you could get it, you already have a preconceived notion about the people sharing that information. You've already made up your mind that because of who those people are, that I don't know if I can trust, what they're telling me. So I do this as an everyday guy, somebody like you, hoping that you don't necessarily take my word for it, but you go look for yourself. That's why I share the links. then do a little more digging on your own. Make this real to you. Go check it out for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Look it up, read up about it. All the stuff that I'm telling you about ESG scores, about them squeezing you financially, about banking institutions and loan institutions looking at your environmental, your social impact, and your governance. And if you're not playing nicely with all three of those, you're going to start getting your own personal ESG scores. You know, they're starting to do this already to justify why they're not, lending to companies, a la the fossil fuel industry. Explain to me how when the Ukraine war started, how is it you're having major, companies stop doing business in Russia? How does that help the situation? You think that's going to change Putin's resolve? McDonald's pulling out of Russia, closing all their stores. What does Putin care? It's all Russians that have been working in those places. You don't think they can piece together how that business runs, that, once you leave, they can't turn that into their own burger franchise, a la Ruski burgers? What's happening with that is an example of the Great Reset, about pressuring you financially by pulling out companies, public-private partnerships. That's McDonald's, being forced out of Russia because, they've got an understanding with the people at Davos and what world leaders and oligarchs and people like Klaus Schwab have decided is best for you. This is how we're going to, usher in change in this world. And that's part of the example right there. Do you think the Russian people, while all this is going on, wouldn't like a good old greasy, McDonald's cheeseburger once in a while? And closing that burger joint has zero effect on what Russia is doing and what's going on in the Ukraine. So how much longer are we going to play these games? How much longer are you going to put up with these things? How much longer are you going to buy into the mess that's going on out there and buy their shenanigans, buy this hocus pocus show that is not magic, it's just evil. And it's going to affect you. If you don't think what's happening in Davos and their plans with the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset is not going to affect you, that's the reason you're seeing this country moving away from fossil fuels, because that's part of the World Economic Forum's game plan. That by 2030, you're supposed to be all transferred over to electric vehicles, when you already have a electric grid that can't handle what's being tasked with now. It's called control, people. It's called control. And little by little, the more you accept, the more they gain ground, and the more this society reverts back to a two-class system, the haves and the have-nots. The more capitalism gets pushed to the side, and you become the serf again, as opposed to somebody that has an opportunity. Why do you think people are willing to almost, die trying to get, across the sea or over a border or, into this country? It's because of the freedoms that we have. And if you let all of that go away, If you let them do what they're doing to you right now and don't stand up, are you okay with being compliant? Is that good for you? Is that working? How's that worked for you the last 2 years? It hasn't. You know, somebody else said this. I can't take credit for it, but it certainly is an honest assessment of where we are right now and the things you need to consider. The statement was made, and I'll do my best to do justice to it. Your freedoms only extend as far as you're willing to exercise them now. What are you willing to accept? What are you willing to stand up to and to fight for? Or what are you willing to comply to? That is the mantra of the day. We're past the point of you waiting for the government to do what you need them to do to secure your well-being. You need to make a decision. We all need to make a decision. How much more are you going to allow them to push? What are you going to comply with? Or where are you going to finally draw that line in the sand and plant both feet firmly and say, no more. No more. I'm going to look at every corner, every part of my life. And any place that I see evil, any place that I see my freedoms being infringed upon as I know them to be here in these United States, I am not going to accept that anymore. Your freedoms only extend as far as you're willing to exercise them. And that has never been more true than right now. You need to stand up. We need to stop this. We need to get focused on what we considered, what we know to be American principles, ideals, values, and traditions that we supported. Is it amazing to you that everything that's happening, do you see culturally how they're trying to just shred absolutely everything we used to know as being normal, stable? Why do you think they're doing that? Well, that's how change comes about. And we're not talking about good change. I'm talking about their idea of change. We can't do this anymore. We as Americans, as all of us as caring individuals within our communities, caring parents as far as your kids and what's going on in the public school system, how your kids are being attacked, brainwashed, told because of the color of their skin somehow that they are born evil and oppressors. There's the oppressed and there's the oppressor. I've heard several people on YouTube, black mothers and fathers, basically saying, "No, you don't get to say that to my kid." People that have achieved things in their lives and stood up in front of school boards and basically said, "I am not oppressed." Why do you think people, like I said, risk their lives to get to this country? Because they know once they get here that opportunity is here. Are you going to let that slip away? Are you going to continue to take what they're handing you? Are you going to let fear continue to rule your life? you got to say no. You've got to say no. If you truly care about the future of this country, your family, your friends, your community, you need to say no, no more. This is where it stops. Right here with me. Okay, I know I've gone on for a bit tonight, and I appreciate you, hanging in there and listening. So, like I said, I will share all the links with these things that I posted, so that you can take a look at them yourself. I appreciate any feedback that you can give me. Comment, share, like I said, give a 5-star review. I don't know what platforms that that you're catching it on once I post this, because I post this on YouTube. I posted on BitChute. I posted on Gab TV. I posted on Rumble. But I am going to make this part of the podcast every week now. I am pleading for you to go on to some of these other platforms where free speech actually exists. I'm just waiting for YouTube for me to say the wrong thing and I get my first strike. And then the ball starts rolling. And I really haven't, even gotten started yet. I don't have thousands and thousands of followers, but I want to be able to speak my mind and for you to be able to comment and us be able to have a discussion. And the only way that happens is if you get off some of the big boys and onto some of the alternatives. So I would really appreciate if you would consider going to Rumble and Gab TV and making accounts there so that you can catch my material there. Or you can catch me on, pardon me while I attempt to slide down here so I don't miss any of these platforms. I finally got onto the Truth Social, so you can find Restoring Main Street on Truth Social. If you just want to listen to this podcast, you can find me on Anchor FM, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, or the big one I share with my buddy, Joe Rogan, Spotify. Because I'm not quite sure that he knows that we're buddies. But anyway. I also want to, make sure that I thank some of the people that support me on a regular basis. And it's been a while because I haven't done a podcast in 90 days, so I haven't sent anything to my friend Gene Valley over at Coffee News Rochester. But he is one of my big supporters and posts my podcast on his page every time I send him a link. So I would appreciate if you would show him a little love and go to Coffee News Rochester if you are a Rochester resident, and just check out some of the posts that he has there. If it's happening in Rochester, chances are he's got it posted on that page. And Gene is just a fantastic guy, and I appreciate all that you do for me, Gene. Thank you. Thank you very much. One of the other, because I believe in small business, and I don't even know if they know I'm doing this for them or not, but I like the people very much over at metalheadsrock.com, or just, Metalheads here in Rochester. They have a store in the Rochester Mall. If you go to the Rochester Mall, go in there and go take a look at all that they have when you're talking about heavy metal rock T-shirts and paraphernalia, all kinds of things that you'll find extremely interesting. While I'm thinking of it, let me grab this really quick from their Facebook page and try and see if I can't pull this up. Give me just a second here, folks. Sorry, didn't mean to throw you a curveball here, but like I said, they deal in metalheadsrock.com. You can go online and look at T-shirts and mugs and that type of thing and order from them, or you can go to the store here in Rochester. But they've got an event coming up August 21st on a Sunday. Starts at noon, and I want to say it goes for like 4 or 5, 6 hours or whatever. But they get it's a Metalheads fest, so it's basically a hard rock fest, and they are going to be at the garage at the Governor's Inn here in Rochester, and it's basically the proceeds are a benefit. They're going to, all that they make is going, the ticket sales are going to the Rochester Performing Arts Center. So if you are interested in heavy metal and want to go see some really good local bands, I'm giving you a wicked heads up here as far as, like I said, Sunday, August 21st, starting at 12 p.m. You can buy tickets. If you go to Metalheads on their Facebook page, I'm sure you can follow the link and buy tickets there. But the bands, Gods Go First, Reckless Child, Shout at the Devil, and Stiletto. So if any of those names are familiar to you, then you know the quality of music that you're going to hear. And if they're not necessarily familiar with you, but you love a good rock show, I would suggest that you jump on that and pay my friends at Metalheads down at the mall a visit. Tell the people behind the counter that Gary from Restoring Main Street sent you. Okay, go pick yourself. I'm sure that old rock T-shirt from concert at your favorite band is pretty tattered right now. Why don't you go get a new one? To me, it sounds like a good idea. So that's my local stuff, sharing with you, some of the people that support me, and I really appreciate that. You will probably see this podcast posted a couple different places, and as soon as, if I get some other individuals that are willing to post the links to my podcast on their pages on Facebook and other places, I will certainly let you know who those people are, and you can go check them out as well. And like I said, I'm just looking to grow this, so if you can just share, write a review. Like I said, share this with a friend. Talk about it. The more this gets discussed, the more it gets shared, the larger the audience grows. And, this voice of this message, what I'm trying to share with you gets out there. And like I said, I do this because I'm just an average guy. I work in a 9 to 5. I work in a warehouse. So I'm just like one of you, and just another working stiff. But my hope, my prayer, is that if you're hearing this from somebody like me, like I said, you don't have to take my word for any of these things. Go check out the links that I posted. Go look some of this up yourself. I'm just hoping that if you hear it from, somebody that could be your neighbor, as opposed to that personality that you may have preconceived notions about, that maybe you'll look past, some type of bias or whatever, and go do some digging on your own. That's what I hope for. That's what I pray for. That's what Restoring Main Street is about. I have this picture in my head from back when I was a kid, and walking down through Main Street in Rochester, and every single storefront was full. There were people everywhere coming and going, and you felt safe. You felt like hope was in the air. It's still there. And it is. It is, because I believe in Jesus Christ. I am a Christian, so I have the belief that faith, no matter what's happening around us right now, that we have the means to do all that we need to do, to stand the way we need to stand, and that God will give us the strength to do so, and speak to our hearts and guide us as far as what it is He needs us to do in order to be a true child of God and a true member, a caring member of your community. So those are the things I espouse. Those are the things I care about. That's what I'm trying to share here with you. And I know I've gone kind of long. I'm looking down at my timer, and wow, I've been rambling on for 55 minutes. So I guess I shouldn't be off, not producing a podcast for 90 days, because this is what you get when that's the case. But as I always do, let me leave you with these particular things. Oh, and just quickly in passing, get involved in the state and find out what's going on legislatively in Concord. I will post a link. If you don't have the Telegram app, you should have that. And Reopen New Hampshire is one of those channels that you can watch and subscribe to, that basically any bill that's going through the Concord legislature, they'll keep you up to date on those things, and check them out. If what they espouse in their principles is something that you're interested in, this channel, rebuildnewhampshire.com, go and be a member, but follow their channel on Telegram. I'll post that link as well. But get active, pay attention. The days of sitting on the sidelines are gone. Can't do that anymore. Not if you want your life, your freedoms, and your family to still have a fighting chance. Yeah, it's something better than what Klaus and the World Economic Forum thinks you deserve. So, like I always do, I'd like to leave you with the idea of God, freedom, and family. Because if we lose the first two, if we lose God and freedom, our families are truly doomed. So until next time, thanks for listening, and God bless.